2, 1. Hey folks, welcome to Bouncing Brains. We are here on a Thursday, February 13th, the day before Thanksgiving. Anybody paying attention might have noticed we skipped last week, right?
Yeah.
It was just 1 week?
I'm not sure.
Anyway,
It feels like 2 weeks, to be honest, but I'm not sure. Maybe wrong.
2 weeks, 2 months, whatever. We had to skip a week. Shit got real fucking complicated, and so.
And I just want to let you know that this episode's been brought to you by Michelob Ultra. And where the fuck is?
I put it down because I figured maybe.
Oh shit! I'm kidding. There's no. Okay.
Shame.
I didn't know.
I was gonna say, should we put this in another cup before we even get started? But
no, I thought you didn't want people to know that you were fucking drinking.
No, I poured out the beer and I filled it up with water. I just wanted it to look cool.
Okay.
There's no
cool.
alcohol in it.
All right, cool. Yeah, we're just using the can. Anyway, go ahead. You fucked up my promo.
Should have gone for the brown paper bag, homie. So
She was out.
So, before we start this, we are having the first live recording of the podcast next week in Harlingen, February 21st, 9 p.m. at the Spot, a former strip club, which seems so appropriate, and great little spot. The Spot, come on out. We're going to be there with the Not Safe for Listeners crew, along with Rudy Barba, Sonia Trevino, Jesse Lopez, and damn it if I cannot remember the next name on the list. I know it ain't you.
By the way,
I was saying not Bobby Garza.
So by the way, I'm Sean Hatfield.
And I'm Freddy G.
And joining us, one of our favorite guests back on the mic, Bobby Garza.
Hello.
I like how he did. It's just real simple. Hello.
Hello. Yes.
Hello. How y'all doing?
You got this weird. It's like sometimes it's like I want to call you Mr. Garza, and then other times it's just like Bobby.
Hey man,
I call me whatever you want, man.
I wanted to kick this episode off by mentioning Ace Ventura, Pet Detective.
Great film.
It's funny you say that because you'll see where I'm taking it.
Oh, did you find the porno parody? It's a little different. I'm not gonna lie.
Ace Ventura, Pet Detective. You've seen it, right? Jim Carrey.
Yeah, of course.
Okay. The Marshall Mathers LP by Eminem. And for the life of me, I was thinking this the whole time, and I forgot the third one. There's a third fucking artistic thing I was thinking about. Anyway, my point is, I fucked around and I watched and listened to this to those two within the same time span of like 5 hours, and it made me realize the Marshall Mathers LP was dropped in November of 2000. Ace Ventura, Pet Detective was dropped somewhere, late 90s, I think?
No, man. It had to have been like 94, 93.
Oh, shit. Okay.
Part 1 Ace Ventura, that was...
Okay, so...
When I was in junior high, maybe.
Like part 2 is like 97, 98, right?
Yeah. I would say probably... I would probably put my money on 94. Maybe. We can look it up.
Yeah. I watched and listened to that, and I just fucking really... Oh! Richard Pryor live on Sunset, on the Sunset Strip.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
All right. So those three, right? I fucked around and watched that within a time span of like 6 hours in the day or whatever. It's a boring fucking Sunday. What the fuck do I know? Anyway, so after I listened and watched to that shit, and I found the correlation in all those three, I realized, and I started paying attention to the years in which it was made, 70s, 90s, and early 2000s. And then we are in 2020 today, and people get offended because you call them crazy, literally. So I just started thinking, man, it's funny how those two films and that record, if they were made today, they would not stand. Like, with this whole politically correct. And I just wanted to get y'all's thoughts. You as a teacher, you shit, was I supposed to say that?
Doesn't matter.
Oh, my bad. All right. You as my favorite teacher.
No, yeah.
So you see these kids and you know you know these kids, you know, in your classroom and shit. So like, how do y'all think, or how do y'all feel if that shit was remade today?
Well,
like instead of back then, if that, I just feel it would, I was curious just to know how it would stand. Oh, I'm lying. The fourth thing, there were four things. That 70s show. Mm-hmm. I really started paying attention to, man, Red is a racist fucking
that's of course. It was never maybe deliberately stated, but I think it might, I mean,
but I think
okay, racist, maybe not, but maybe he was just, you know, kind of just had that.
No, he was racist.
Okay.
Whoever wrote that character, like they did it with that intention.
Well, okay, let me throw an example out here because I don't know if y'all have watched F is for Family, the Bill Burr.
I seen 2 episodes and then I didn't follow up.
That has a very similar sensibility to that 70s show. I mean,
but it's Bill though.
Right.
See what I'm saying?
Okay, man, but like you don't. If you're watching the cartoon, I mean, if you know Bill Burr's voice, you're gonna go, "Oh, that's fucking Bill Burr." You know what I mean?
No. But that's not what I mean. But it's Bill. I mean, it's Bill in the way that you would already expect.
Okay, he's making the artistic choices, so you're not surprised that that's
okay, so let me give you my input about something like that 70s show. Okay, so basically that 70s shows, all the characters there are archetypes. They're all representative of kind of stereotypical kind of characters. They're not individuals or people. They kind of develop that later on, but they're originally meant to be, there's the stoner, there's the foreign exchange student, there's the nerdy guy, there's the hot chick that doesn't know she's hot. There's the bimbo one, you know. So they all represent these kind of like these characters, these archetypes that you find like that you would have found in that time period. And so the thing about Red is also an archetype of a guy that it's like he's still a likable guy because he's a dick. He's always aggravating.
Yeah. I have nothing against the guy. Like
but let me just explain. He's easily aggravated. He's very irritable, but he's also representing just basically a whole group of people in one character. And he's likable and lovable enough to where you forgive him for his shortcomings in terms of maybe being accepting of other races or like that, you know? So they kind of like give this version of this person that people come, like, you're almost like, yeah, it sucks, but you know, you can't, I mean, that's just who he is. I mean, it's not really his, he doesn't know better. So you it's like a forgivable.
You guys I'm assuming you guys have watched King of the Hill, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Cotton, Hank's dad, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
You remember the episode where they introduce the Laotian family that moves in next door?
Yeah.
You know, Connie and I forget the parents' name, but yeah, they're like all the characters are kind of like, oh, Cotton's gonna lose his shit when he comes over here because it doesn't like the Asians and all that. And he shows up and Cotton's just like, how you doing? And he's like, you're not offended by this here Asian? And he goes, the Laotian hair?
Yeah, I didn't fight them. They weren't the ones that fought. Yeah. And he walks straight up to him and he squints his eyes and he's like, he identifies exactly where they're from. And so they're not, and there's like, oh, he's just going to be an asshole. But he's like, no, they're cool. My problem is with the people who took my legs or whatever, So, I mean,
took my shins.
Yeah. So I guess that's kind of,
And look, this is why I pointed and make the parallels between those things, right? Because, and maybe it's just me, maybe it's my, me being cynical or whatever the fuck, I don't care. But I started thinking, right? So movies, somebody wrote them and they give them to the actor. You're going to act this and you're going to say this. That's basically the premise and the purpose of a movie. The album, Marshall sat down, wrote this, recorded, put it out. This is how I feel, whether you like it or not. And my thing is that the common denominator, aside from being, those movies and that record being very homophobic, honestly, if you really think about it down to the root of it, they're just fucking words.
Well, I mean, what you're doing is you're comparing the climate of today with those time periods, and all of those things that you mentioned are kind of products of their time. And saying that they couldn't necessarily come out today, I mean, we can kind of suppose or make like hypotheticals, but the thing is that they did. And if something holds up, it holds up. And
well, I mean, that record, those specials, or that special, those shows, I mean, I'm not arguing that they still hold today. My thought process was more along the lines of like, if somebody would even try to remake something even remotely close to something like that. You know what I'm saying?
Like people would be all calling it out, and they're going to try to.
But I mean, horribly. Like people would lose their careers. And
I'd like to point out, and I don't know if it's maybe just because, granted, we're all kind of in our own little bubble of what we consume for the most part. I mean, I have found that like most folks you run into in the comedy, they're taking it a little bit more. You know what I mean? Maybe it's just that urge. It's like, fuck, I got to get like new shit in here so that there's new shit coming out. But there's an eclectic, variety of tastes, and if you want to find it, like if you're looking in the right place, you can find way more boundary pushing boundary
pussing.
Yes, it's like German porn. It's like, yes, boundary pussing. Wangmeister. Yeah. Anyway, I think there are boundaries being explored and pushed today. Maybe not the same ones necessarily. Like don't get me wrong. I think more and more when you hear the like the gay jokes and shit today, there's more of an understanding. It's like, we don't mean this, right?
I'm actually, what I think is just that. Okay, so you mentioned Ace Ventura, and the big thing about Ace Ventura is the scene where he's in the bathtub and he's doing the whole crying game parody, and he finds out that the girl detective, that she's actually a dude, she's a transsexual, right? So now, and he has this huge reaction, and then there's also the end scene where they find out that she has a penis, and then all the guys are all like, blah, 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 right? And everybody's like, oh, that's so transphobic. Now, at that time period, that got a lot of laughs. It was hilarious. Yes, people liked it. Now, I think that that joke has been played out to death. The joke about and it's the same thing to where I thought you were going with the gay thing, is that there was a time period where just trans or gay was the punchline. That was the punchline. Like, as if like you just
he actually makes a very good damn point.
But it's
I never saw it that way.
But that's kind of like, and that's what it is. It's sort of like
and now you're I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but now you're kind of saying that it's kind of not the punchline, or it can't be really the punchline because it's played out. It's expected.
That's my issue with it. Other people, though, who do kind of do the virtue signaling, they might just be on the trigger to protect something once they think that it's, because, I mean, and I think also this wave of hyper political correctness, I think it reached a certain pinnacle, and I think it's starting to, and it's not that it's going down where people are not going to be politically correct. I just think that we know that we should probably be a little more conscientious and maybe a little more sympathetic or empathetic to certain things.
I just feel that the more and more that I see shit, I don't see that. I feel my biggest fear is that these brittle ears, because that's what I feel that it really comes down to. like I think they're here to stay.
I think everybody has a reason for reacting the way they do. Somebody might have grown up with somebody that was marginalized. Somebody might have had a gay brother or sister or somebody that was, transgender in their life that was important to them. So they get really offended when they get attacked in some way. And maybe they have a personal reason. And then we also think about this other person who's like maybe just kind of like has nothing better to do than, and they kind of take this standpoint of calling out people for misstepping, and then let's crucify that person, make an example of them. And that's where you're saying, like, fuck that. People should be allowed to say what they want to say. If you don't, and if you don't like it, it's not a reason to drag them through the mud.
And I think we talked about this like 2 or 3 episodes ago, but I just feel that I should be able to say, fuck you, or I should be able to express. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we talked about 3 episodes ago or whatever. I fuck you, Bobby. I want to kill you. I should be able to say that. I see your expression.
The fuck you, but the killing part is like
that's where the hang was.
No, let me explain. Let me explain. I said that for a reason. I feel I should be able to say that, and I feel that it should only be punishable if there's action behind the word. And I think that that's where the real hate crime comes from. Like, let's say that I don't like Mexicans, or I don't like black people, or I don't like white people, or I don't like Chinese people. You know what I'm saying? I said all of these races, so fucking listeners will, he said he didn't like black people. You know what I'm saying?
Isolate that.
Yeah, exactly. So, but whoever's good at sound bites is gonna fuck me over if they wanted to anyway.
What about the Sammy of the far north? Can they not get a fuck you? What the hell?
So like that's what I'm saying. Like the race thing or whatever. Like whether you're white, black, whatever. I should be able to. Nobody should be taken accountable, like punished or whatever, unless there's action. Like if I go and attack, white person,
you can say, "Bobby, fuck you." If you the killing thing, I would say that based on you saying that, I could go and say. Go to the police, say, I want a restraining order against Freddy because he threatened me verbally. I have a witness, Sean. He can corroborate that, and therefore that can happen, right? You didn't do anything. But also when you talk about, like, say, races, now you can express how you feel. I believe that is your right. But if you are trying to maybe promote violence against them, or maybe kind of like incite a specific thing.
That's why I made it very specific, and I said, "This is me telling you." I didn't go out in public. Okay, let me flip it around. I didn't say, "Hey, Sean, I think Bobby's a piece of shit. I want to kill him." See, when you do that, you're telling somebody else that's not that person. That makes it more, okay, like, is this guy, you know what I'm saying? Like, where is he going with this?
All right, 2 points. One, you brought up the Marshall Mathers LP, and there's a great line on there where it's, I just said get a gun and shoot at a cop. Yeah, I didn't know if you do it or not. Yeah, and it's that. The second point is we were talking. I believe it was the last episode we did with Omar. We were talking about the idea of the being or having the freedom to say what we want on stage, and not having people take it to that extreme of going, well, he said this, this, and this, and it's like, okay, but it's comedy, like that. Mm-hmm. But I think that kind of allowance only comes from the fact that it's like, look. If you get on stage in front of a room full of people, put a fucking microphone on, put the sound out over a loud system, you're doing a performance and you can say whatever you want. People may not like it. They may not buy your tickets. They may tell you to go fuck yourself, but they can't come at you. He's inciting this and that, right?
Yeah, comics.
Whereas if you say it like,
that's what they did. That's what they did to Kathy Griffin, and she didn't even say anything.
Well, comedy, like comedians are
like that. That's the only thing that I'm pointing out. Like that's my only issue. Like my only issue is like me, and I'm only gonna speak for myself. When I see this shit happening to different people, like it makes me feel like freedom of speech is not free. You know what I'm saying? Like you have freedom of speech, but you really don't. You know what I'm saying? And so I kind of I try to defend both sides of the coin by saying, okay, if you say I'm gonna kill this person, but you just saying because you're venting or because of whatever, or what if I'm on stage and I was like, hey, you know what, this dude cut me off and I was thinking of killing this motherfucker. But
you've listened to my act.
But it's kind of my it's kind of like my premise or my setup or whatever, right?
Well, that's very relatable. Everybody's had that experience.
Exactly. So, but if you say shit like that, people, all it takes is for one line to like be taken out of context, and then you can lose your whole fucking career. So now you jump into like, you can't say this, you can't say that, and then what ends up happening is like you become stale as a comic, and you're no longer funny, and you become irrelevant.
Okay,
I'm being very drastic, but I'm trying to paint like a big picture.
Well, this is a through line that has been going. I mean, dude, you can go right back to Lenny Bruce. Part of the reason he was getting arrested were the obscenity laws and all that shit. I mean, later on it was because of the heroin and the taxes, but that's something else. Anyway, point being, that conversation we were talking before we got on the mic, Bobby, about the whole situation with Ari Shaffir, and he made the tweet. He put out the tweet about Kobe, and then doubled down, put out a fucking Instagram video, and like, people were coming after him. A bunch of people went on.
Ooh, they came after me at work for that shit.
For what?
That Kobe shit.
What did you say?
And I didn't say. I said it. I swear.
Hashtag fuck the Lakers.
When I said it the first time, I literally said it didn't even click as a joke. I mean, it did click as a joke for me, but I didn't mean it that way. So here's what I said, right? Somebody said something really, really stupid. They were talking about guns, right? And whatever. They said something really stupid, and they were like, yeah, Freddy, well, if it would have happened to you, you can't do anything because you can't run or some shit like that, right? It was something along those lines. And all I said was, well, you know, with a 38 from 3-point range, I shoot better than Kobe. But my joke didn't end there. My joke ended, and I was like, well, I mean, let's be honest. At this point, anybody shoot better than Kobe,
right?
And then my whole work crew like got on my ass about it. You know what I'm saying?
Okay, so
this is why comics need to get away from day jobs.
No, look, this is the thing is both of you guys have valid points, and the thing that I want to back up Sean about is that he basically comedians should not be taken seriously at all, fucking ever. They're there to entertain and make people laugh. Yes, we want to be thought provoking. Yes, we want to be insightful. We would like to maybe make people look at things in a different light and have these kind of really interesting moments. And there's some comics that have been so really good at that, and almost kind of expressing, the collective thoughts of maybe a population or group of people, that they come under fire for what they've said. And that's where you come in, which basically is like, they should be allowed to say whatever they want. And then Sean, also I agree with Sean, is like basically like, look, dude, just don't take fucking anybody any seriously. They're comedians. All right. Why are you giving them so much clout, so much influence and weight for the words that they're saying?
What I want, but the only thing that I want is, I would like for society to hold the president of the United States to the same standard that they want to hold the comedian to.
Okay. So
political correctness.
Okay.
That's all the fuck I'm saying.
Now, when you defend the comics' right to say whatever they want to say, we also have to defend the right of anybody's reaction and also their way they react. And if they publicly denounce what they're saying, we still have to defend that.
No, and that's fine. Yeah. I'm with that. But what I'm saying is, that's all fine and dandy. Mm-hmm. Then you can't come after my career. You can't take my sitcom away. You can't take what it took me years to build. You can't take that away.
No.
Okay, that's all the fuck I'm saying.
Just to interject a little bit for some clarity there. On an individual basis, people can choose not to engage with you. They can stop listening to your shit.
No, that's fine.
Okay, but what I'm saying is they can't. Where I think we're talking about the same line is they can't force other people to stop fucking with you.
And I get it, but what I'm saying is, it's a domino effect. Like
there's a little bit of the shame and the social pressure involved.
I mean, the thing is, like I think that labels, agencies, TV networks, radio stations, they should, at this point, because of the severity of the issue, I feel that there should be something where they shouldn't be allowed to drop you because of that. Because of like shit you said or whatever.
Okay, so we can never compel anybody to do anything. Nobody should ever be compelled to do anything. So if you take away the agencies and the people who run the shows and they take away what somebody's, like you said, what they worked for, technically they have the right to do that. It's really just the way it is. And if they're too worried about the backlash because, it's still.
I get it. Like, I'm not saying they have a right to feel how, like you said, they have a right to feel however it is that they want to feel. Okay. So if I go apply to any job at Stripes right now, if I apply for a job, right? And there's a position open. You have two people. We're both qualified to do the same shit. But I don't get hired because I'm Mexican and this person's white, right? And he gets the job. Now, if I can prove that I didn't get hired because I'm Mexican, that's illegal, right? So that's my point. My point is, I feel you should be able to express your distaste. I was like, this person said whatever. Oh, he's an asshole. He's a racist, whatever. Cool. That's how you feel. Fine. But you shouldn't take away my employment, my job, how I make money because of how you feel.
So, like when people demand like a person's show gets canceled, and then like the network goes and follows through with that.
Exactly.
There's a little bit of a false equivalency there in what you were saying about the hiring.
Why?
Just because there's a difference between inherent trait
and discrimination.
Not just that. I can't necessarily do anything about how I feel about a situation because that's just the cumulative like output or my reaction of my cumulative experiences. And,
I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying.
But I can choose not to open my fucking mouth.
No, they just looked at you, Freddy, like, oh, he's one of the lazy ones. He's not one of them fucking mowing lawns and shit. The fucking heat with the long sleeves and fucking.
No, man, I'm just saying, if you have the right as an American citizen or as a human being to express your distaste for me because of who I am or something I said, I should have the same right to say, I don't like this either, and this is why. I called this person a bitch, and this is why. Because now they're getting into that shit. Like they're getting into the shit where you can't. They don't want you to call women bitches.
Well, okay. I saw a very good conversation. I don't know if you guys ever watched the Brilliant Idiots with Charlemagne the God and Andrew Schultz.
What episode? I haven't seen it in a while, but I've seen.
I was watching an episode from a few years back. They had a CNN presenter. I forget what she is, political scientist, something like that. But they were Schultz, who's a comic. Andrew Schultz, funny dude. Go check him out. He basically went on Twitter. I don't know the context of why he made the comment. Like there was some back and forth, blah, blah, blah. But what he basically said, he was comparing Migos, the group, and some of their lyrics and shit to Milo Yiannopoulos. And he was like,
I don't know what that is, but
Milo Yiannopoulos is that bleach blonde British guy.
It's one
he's
guy?
gay and he's like a mouthpiece for alt-right conservatism, and he also got himself into trouble.
But it's one guy.
Yeah, Milo Yiannopoulos.
It sounds like it's three people.
But the words that he's saying, I guess there was a connection with Migos lyrics.
Well, but his
rhetoric.
Well, what Schultz was trying to point out is like, okay, if you're going on every other song and you're, bitches, thoughts, hoes, and shit like this, and it's like, okay, they probably don't actually, like, that's not something they actually hold as a belief, right? This is a performance. It's a complicated conversation. Mm-hmm. Basically, he was getting tag teamed by Charlemagne the God and this other woman, something Rye, I think was her name.
Angela Rye. I know what you're talking about.
Okay, yeah.
I know what you're talking about. I know exactly what you're talking about.
She doesn't seem quite as hair trigger as some people you can run into, but she's definitely she's got a little.
I agree. I agree with some of this, like very little of what she says, but then she says some other like. Just, oh my God.
I don't think people are coming under attack for no reason. Now, also, I don't agree with, I don't like bullies, and I don't like people when they are ganged up on. Now, at the same time, if you did something purposefully to kick a fucking hornet's nest and you get fucking stung, well then, you were kind of looking to get stung. You knew there was a possibility. If something about your background or your personal history comes to light and it's extremely distasteful to a large population of people and they come after you for it, I don't know. It's just, I guess maybe case by case fucking basis. People.
And I really don't think it should. That's the only thing I'm arguing. I feel that it shouldn't be.
Well, I feel like what you're kind of giving are like kind of these sweeping broad painting in a broader paintbrush. And I'm thinking like, on a case by case basis, like for example, we brought up Ari earlier, right? Ari Shaffir. So now, I was like, dude, what did you expect was going to happen?
No. But by the way, Shaffir is I've been following the guy for almost 10 years.
That's par for the course.
Like that is who he is. Every time a celebrity dies, he comes out and he makes a shitty fucking post about it. Like he's actually, I think he even went on his podcast and he was like, I promise you, every time a celebrity dies, I will come out and do one of these shitty posts. Like he's a troll.
Okay. Now.
And he knows it.
So he's like, I do this thing every time a celebrity dies, and Kobe happened to die, and I had to do my thing. But the thing is, like, I don't think why do the fucking thing to begin with? Why do the fucking like? If that's who you are and you like it, then fine, that's awesome. Yeah. But if that's part of that's what you do, and I guess that's your brand, and that fine. Mm-hmm. But the thing is, then that's your brand. You are going to get. You're just going to come back to you.
By the way,
that's all it is.
Okay,
but it's fine.
And that's what I'm saying. I don't mind the backlash. I don't mind the shit. I don't mind you pouring shit on me after something I said. I really don't mind that. What I mind is you successfully taking my career away because of something I said.
No, I don't.
That's what I mind.
I don't think. Okay, like for example, now like what Sean said. Basically, a form of protest is not to. If you find out a product or something that is doing something that you don't like, stop buying it. Now, do I think that people should have personally or purposefully tried to go and, this guy sucks, just don't go to his shows. Fine. That's it. But to attack somebody, that's another thing. Now,
I saw a lot of stuff coming out where it was like, basically on the level of, if you defend this guy or if you don't outright reject him at this point, then you're a piece of shit. And it's like, no, you don't get to make judgment calls for other people, basically. Like you can go stand in front of his performance with a sign that says, fuck Ari Shaffir, but you don't get to yell at people as they're walking in. You know what I mean? Like a lot of the college protests, they'll try to shut down the auditoriums and shit like that. And they will not allow people to participate.
Right.
Where it's like, look, you can come and also participate, but you don't get to shut shit down.
I still lean back on my original point that I said. I should be able to say, fuck you, I don't like this, I don't...
I'm going to touch back on that because...
As long as I don't take action physically with intention of harm.
Okay, but Freddy,
somebody.
Look at this. The reason I brought up Shaffir was not actually to point out Shaffir, which, again, if you're trolling, you're going to get the response. You know that's going to happen.
By the way, I should have said something like 10 minutes ago. for whoever's listening and watching, my condolences to Kobe Bryant's family. It was a horrible thing. I understand he's a human, and I'm not joking. Like, I understand he's a human being. A life was lost. He was a father. He was a son. He was a husband. And it sucks. I get it. But what I'm saying is, if it's funny, I'm going to say
Yeah, and what you were saying, you said, man, I mean, that's not necessarily tame necessarily, but what I was trying to get at by bringing up the point with Shafir was, I went back and looked through a lot of the responses for it, mainly because there was at least a story that had come out that some comic had actually doxed him, like had given out his information.
And that's not fucking right.
Yeah, that was the point where, like, everything up to them was like, fine, y'all be mad, say what you want, blah, blah, blah. But at the point where it's like, oh, here's this motherfucker's address, it was like, no.
well,
you don't get to evolve.
What did I just say? Up until the point where you try to actually do something physically or what you said earlier, or I don't know if you said it. One of you two said, or incite a violent act.
Okay, but I'm going to show you where the line is, at least a little bit with this situation. Is there was a sports YouTuber that came out and basically did this video where he posted up the dude's schedule. He was like, hey, here's the shows he's going to be at.
You can find him.
Yeah, like if you want to go out there, like basically through the whole thing, he's going, this guy's going to get his ass kicked. Like, I'm not going to kick his ass, but somebody's going to kick his ass. If you'd like to kick his ass, that's where he's going to be. He's not saying go kick his ass, but he's walking right up to that line.
So then that's fine.
Okay, that's fine. That's what I'm saying. But
I'm not saying. I'm sorry. I'm not saying that's fine. Like, you can do that.
I'm saying he can.
No,
I'm literally. I will defend that guy's right to be a piece of shit. I think he's a piece of shit, but I think I'll defend his right to be a piece of shit. But there were other people.
At that point, you're actually inciting.
No. But here's what I'm saying. On the other side of that very fine line, somebody threatened to shoot up a club in New York that he was going to be doing a set at. Now, at that point, where you go, oh, I'm not just saying maybe somebody's going to show up and kick this dude's ass. Somebody's going to come, what they were saying was, and shoot at the club. And at that point, you've crossed the line. That's where that line is like, as far as words. Like, don't be wrong. If somebody just showed up and shot the club, or if somebody showed up and kicked, Shafir's ass, both of those things would be illegal. Antisocial bullshit.
So then by your logic, and correct me if I'm wrong, I may be wrong. So then what George did was wrong too.
George
Lopez.
Which time?
When he got in
This
trouble
last
for
one, that I'll do it for $10 million.
Killing President Trump. And then people are like, fuck. So exactly. If people had tickets to the show and they were like, I'm selling my tickets, I'm not going, and we're not going to support him. I mean, yeah, that's within their right. If they don't want to fucking support the guy for what he says, that's fine.
Not what I'm.
No. But okay, if George Lopez says, I'm going to show up at this event and shoot at the president, that would be the point where you go, sorry, George.
So then what he said was still fine in your book.
Yeah, I think. Don't get me wrong. I think.
Oh yeah, what Ari Shafir said, shit. Does he have the right to say it? Yeah. Did George Lopez have the right to say this shit? Yeah. But if they receive backlash, and it's within their people's rights to also exercise their freedom of speech to give the backlash. But once you're like the doxing, now if the network sees this person as a liability and they don't want to spend money because they're going to support this person, they pull the fucking support. Hey man, this is the way I look. I don't give a fuck what Ari Shafir said. I really don't care. If you follow Ari Shafir, or if you've kind of, been aware of the guy, I mean, that's his brand. That's who he fucking is. Am I surprised that he said what he said? No, I'm not surprised. I read it and I was like, this guy, this is who he is. Whatever. Also, I'm not a fucking basketball fan. I don't give a shit about the Lakers. I was aware who Kobe Bryant was, and, whatever. And for people who felt a sense of attachment to him because he was such a great basketball player, if I were to lose, okay, if Paul McCartney were to pass away, I would be fucking devastated. Okay, that's fine. And if somebody went and fucking talked shit about Paul McCartney the day that he died, a couple of hours after it was released, who gives a fuck? It's like, I don't care. Nobody should care. He said what he fucking said. You're wasting your time. Ari Shafir wasted his time coming up with some negative fucking piece of shit when he could have used it to maybe be a little more creative and work something on his fucking act. All right. Something better that would have been just, whatever. But he did what he did. Let him do it. There's a lot of people that are on his side that are going to support him. This is going to also, there's a lot of people that are going to come out. It's just that the majority of people are condemning him. While he's also got a lot of people like, fuck yeah, that guy says yeah. And there are a lot of people who probably hate the Lakers, and he speaks to a group of people that kind of share his mentality. And he also knew that he was going to be getting a rise out of a lot of people. It's like, this is what I do. This is what I do. Okay, man, why is that what you do to begin with? Why is that why you put your creative interest and your talent forth? Because you know what? Because I guess somebody needs to do it. Somebody needs to be a troll. And I'm going to be the guy. I'm the fucking troll flag bearer. Check me out. Great, man. You got the balls to go up there and talk shit about Kobe and all this shit. Right. Bravo, bro. Okay. Now, Ari, I feel, wasted his time and his creative talent in doing that. I also think that if people get super fucking mad and upset and they're gonna and try to track him down, try to get on a computer and all this shit and you're wasting your time too. He did his thing. It's just fucking stupid all around. Why are we even talking about it? I'm not saying why are we talking about it. I'm just saying why is it?
For a second there, I thought it was.
No, but I'm saying I'm saying
I'm here to talk about more important.
Yeah. Why is it why is it such a issue when I feel that what we're doing is people are just in general the public and society are I'll stop right now. But basically the super fandom that basically kind of incites people to act this way. You're fucking stupid. Go fuck yourself.
The thing is that I can sadly answer that question that you asked.
Did I ask a question?
Yeah, you said why.
I mean, I just don't know if I did.
Why you said why are people doing it? Why?
Right, it's the waste. Yeah, you got better things to go fucking do. I promise.
So you know why people do it? And I've said this 10 million times. Ever since the creation of social media and it being given to everybody, now everybody has, unfortunately, a voice. Mm-hmm. So everybody thinks that their opinion is so important. So, I'm going to get on Twitter and I'm going to say this. And it's going to rattle these people. And I'm going to say this. And I'm going to, and you know what the even sadder part is? That these fucking people, 90% of these fucking people are only doing it for the likes.
Right.
And literally. For the likes, for the following, because I need all of this attention on me, because you just said it. Because I have nothing better to do, so I need somebody to look at me.
And they participate in this kind of movement that's occurring regardless of what it is, and it's kind of being current on top of things. And I do, we go on social media and a lot of people are just saying things and whatever, and I read what they're saying and I realize it says more about them and their personality and who they are as a person versus actually maybe the issue or the topic that they're addressing, but I don't know. People are, it's just,
Yeah, man. I completely understand.
I figure we got better ways to spend our time, but also, when I tell people you like sports? It's no, I don't. So, I don't have no fucking team or people.
So I like the way.
Fuck them.
So I like the way.
I'm still upset that I can't bring up a Hakeem Olajuwon in a fucking conversation because nobody remembers the motherfucker. It's dude, that guy was fucking great. And he was a fucking gentleman, man. Fucking class act son of a bitch. And you go, Olajuwon? No, who?
Will Chamberlain was still my hero.
Only because he fucked a lot.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
And not because of whatever he did on the court.
Hey, look, was it Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, man? I don't agree with the motherfucker on a lot of his public opinions on things. When he comes out and gives a take on some shit. But I respect the fuck out of the motherfucker, man. Mainly just because he was in that movie with Bruce Lee. But that's I get to make my choices.
Karate. The other one that
Kundo, Bob.
The other one that I respect a lot because he's also very humbling. I remember that interview. I think he had it it was an interview in the 80s with Larry Bird. And Larry Bird in the 80s was already making millions of dollars in the NBA, right? And I never forget what Larry said. They asked him something along the lines of like, he had just really started making like real money, right? In the millions and shit. So he's like, how does it feel to, have this money and being able to like support your family or some shit like that? And he looked at the reporter and he was like, well, I'm an all-star NBA player, but my dad still makes more money than me. So I was like, fuck. But he didn't say it like, oh shit, like my dad makes, like he said it with such a humble spirit that he's like, so, I mean, I'm fine. I mean,
well, it's nice when somebody who is kind of reached a certain status is still, seems like they're grateful, and
I want to say it's fucking Wayne Gretzky, man, but I remember it was either Gretzky or Nolan Ryan. I can't remember which one, but some interviewer was talking about doing an interview with him and somebody else, and he walks in the studio and like some dude's just sitting there, like just some like fucking suburban dad looking fucking dude, button up fucking shirt, just kind of just. He walks in and he's like, hey man, what are you here for? He's like, oh, I'm here for the interview. He goes, holy shit, that's fucking Wayne Gretzky. Like it just like there are a lot of motherfuckers out there. You hand them $1 million, they're not going to fucking go out and they're not going to look like they have $1 million, and they're still going to act like.
Y'all ever seen Rick Rubin?
Yeah, he's fucking.
If you didn't know who this guy was, you would fucking. I'm telling you because.
Who the fuck let this hobo in here?
I'm telling you because I actually ran into him in person in Los Angeles, and he was sitting there. It was like 9 o'clock in the morning. I just clocked in for my shift because I used to work at this cafe. It was called the Grand Lux Cafe in Beverly Hills. It was right in the border of I think it was Los Angeles and Beverly Hills. And I walk in and whatever, and everybody was walking in. I had a funky ass suit clocking in for my shift, and they had a balcony, and there was only one person at the balcony, and my one of my coworkers walked in with me, and he was like, "Hey man, I didn't know Jesus liked to drink coffee at 9 a.m. I was like, "What the fuck are you talking about?" And I was like, "Dude, that's not Jesus," and I was like, "That's Rick Rubin, bro." And then he's like, who the fuck is Rick Rubin? I was like, for real, bro?
Sometimes that's even more of a boss move to be so unassuming.
That was my point. Like, he was there, like, he literally, like I said, if you didn't know who he was, you would have thought that it was a homeless guy that roamed into a fucking luxury fucking cafe and is sitting on your balcony. And you got to go escort him out and be like, hey, bro, can I help you?
You walking up there with the broom, like getting ready to shoot. And you're just like, oh, sorry, Mr. Rubin, keep going.
Yeah, man.
Keep making him hits, homie. Dude, by the way, if anybody out there familiar with Rick Rubin, I still think some of his best work was actually with Johnny Cash, man. Those last 3 albums they put out, you familiar with those, Bobby?
Is it like the cover albums or cover albums?
A lot of them were the cover albums, but that's also when he was doing like a lot of the songs that he'd never published, that he was just kind of going back and
then there was
really
there was some records that I'm like, Rick, you just, this is fucking up your reputation. Like those 3 records that he did with Lil Jon, right? And I'm a fan of John, but fuck.
Well, I mean, sometimes when it's when a producer has such a presence that they go to what they're. It is not just the talent or the artist. It's like, dude, but it's produced by this guy, and it maybe that's very, very impressive. There's very few guys that I think are recognizable because of what they do behind, the mixing and the boards and all that, and how they bring it out of the artist versus, who that person is.
I was watching a bunch of, we got that live show coming up next week, and I'm going to be running the sound for that. So I was going out and looking at a bunch of like videos on speaker setup and mixing board, protocol, all that shit. and I start watching these videos with these guys where it's like a couple of like live show producers, like the kind of motherfuckers that would run like the Emmys or, you know, shit like that. Like, so they're doing massive stuff. They were talking about, you know, 16 mics in the audience, all this shit, and they're throwing stuff back and forth, and they start throwing around names like, and they're lighting up like, oh fuck, this dude's a big fucking deal. It's like, I have no fucking clue.
But in the inside, people are like, you know, because they know that person produces results and like, you know, makes hits and shit. Yeah. I mean, they're probably some of the people that are responsible for music that has, you know, been consumed, like, you know, freaking millions and millions of units sold or whatever. You wouldn't even know who they are because they're just, you know, but everybody, the insiders, like, yeah, that's the guy. That's, you know, they're the ones, you know, and some people, you know, like the songwriters that sell their shit to, you know, the bigger names and stuff like that. They're like, no, I want that person, you know, like, oh, well, I got this. And like, they listen to me, they go, okay, yeah, that's the one I want. That's the hit right there. Yeah, you did it again. Yeah. And then they got, but you wouldn't give the credit to that guy. It's like that person takes the credit.
Well, even the ones that show up on the albums, like I'm trying to remember, some of the guys that played with Zappa back in the 70s, like had credentials before they ended up playing with the Mothers of Invention, and then went on to do just insane shit. Mm-hmm. But if you've never seen anything where they were specifically talking about that motherfucker, you'd never know. But like you said, those that know, not only know, but like
talent.
Like you can actually, like those kind of guys where you can trace their history back, and as names start popping up in their history, you can like branch off and go, oh shit, this motherfucker's got like a whole nother library of stuff. And there's, you know, I think Ruben's one of those guys where he's brought people up and he's worked with like just obscure fucking names, and he's just not tied to I think that's part of the reason he gets to be that dude. You know what I mean? Just the bummy looking motherfucker is because he's not selling you an image. You know what I mean? He's not selling you like a.
Well, you gotta also
like if Dr. Dre started producing for country artists, you'd be like, what the fuck? Right,
yeah. But you also gotta remember that also comes with status. I think that when you get to Rick's status, you don't really have to do anything.
Well, people come to you.
No. He's been looking like a bum since the 90s, man.
Yeah. But and Rick's bank account has been fine since the 90s. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I'm saying. Like when you get to that point, like another thing, and this is kind of like a parallel, but another thing is like in that episode with Jerry Seinfeld and Eddie Murphy in the car drinking coffee and some shit. That one, fucking Eddie Murphy dropped one of the most gangsterous statements in the world in that episode. When Jerry asked him, I think he asked him something along the lines of like, what is it like to be Eddie Murphy today? And Eddie said, you know what, Jerry, you know what I really like? I like the fact that I can just sit at home and do nothing. I don't have to talk to anybody. I don't have to answer any phone calls. I don't even have to answer the door. I can just sit and do nothing. And it would be okay if I spend the rest of my life doing nothing. Because doing nothing is comfortable. And I don't think a lot of people understood what Eddie meant. Eddie's telling us that he's rich. He's reached this financial like pinnacle somewhere where he's like, I'm good. Right. I only do shit because I want to do it.
I mean, he reached out with fucking after his first two specials of Beverly Hills Cop. Like I mean, he was there for a long time.
I just like to point out, anytime you see Eddie in public, that motherfucker's wearing thousands of dollars worth. So I mean, don't get me wrong, he's keeping it simple, but not that fucking simple.
Yeah. But I think what's relatable is that he's just saying, I'm just a regular person.
Yeah.
And, you know, yeah, but I mean,
still waiting for Norbit too.
When you're good enough, you can do whatever you want.
Yeah. No, I mean, and that's the only comparison I'm making. Like, yeah, like Eddie Murphy, fucking Eddie Murphy, Rick Rubin, I mean, we can go to the top of the mountain. At this point, Jeff Bezos, these people like literally don't have to do another one that is a lot like Eddie Murphy, Jackie Chan. Jackie Chan don't gotta do a motherfucking thing anymore. And I remember in one of the recent interviews that he did, for one of the last movies that he did that I'm sorry but completely flopped. I think it's one of the ones that he sold to Netflix. He kind of also said, he's like, well, what do you do nowadays, Jackie? Like, and he was like, no, just be home. Oh, what do you do at home? Eat. And that's pretty much it. So being able to, when you reach that kind of, I think that when you reach that kind of, like I said, pinnacle, that status, you can afford to be that guy. You can afford to be Rick. You can afford to dress up, not dress up, look like shit, not look like shit, or whatever.
Okay, I think there is a noticeable, a marked difference between, say, Murphy and Rubin and Chan and Bezos. And I think the real...
Well, Bezos was an extreme example.
Okay, but what I'm going to say was Bezos and Chan are kind of in a position where, not in the same way, but they have obligations. Like, they owe motherfuckers. Like, doesn't matter how much you got in the bank account, they owe motherfuckers shit. Like, they can't stop moving. Like, when people talk, like, this gets brought up all the time. It's like, Jeff Bezos, one of the richest men in the world. It's like, yeah, but all those are in stocks. All that shit is in motion. If he just stopped, like, he can't go he can't pull it all out of the bank and go live on the farm. It would crash. There would be nothing. It would disappear before it ever got into his hands. Don't be wrong. He'd walk away with some millions, but the billions would be fucking gone. You know what I mean? So I'm saying there is a constant required activity on his part, and especially for Jackie Chan, he managed to tie himself up with the fucking political bullshit in China. At least at one point, he was actually a representative in the committee or whatever the fuck it is. Their legislature, basically. And there's Bobby going at it again. Sponsored by not Michelob Ultra. Fuck them people. But my point being is I think there is a marked difference between getting to the point where you can reach the top of the mountain, but it's like, fuck, as soon as I walk, I can't just stand here. I have to keep moving. I don't like being there without the option, being there with the obligations and the debt.
So it brings up a very valid question. What I mean, and I don't think it's a fair question to ask either one of y'all. I mean, I'm not talking shit about either one of y'all.
Yeah, but we're not successful by any means. Yeah,
yeah, exactly. See, I love the way, Bobby beat me to it. But I'm saying is, because my question was going to be like, so then what is the point where you can literally like turn around and whatever the fuck you use to look at your bank account and look, and you can be like, okay, now I think I can just chill. I can just autopilot.
I think really driven people...
Go ahead.
Sorry, Sean. I think that really driven people who have a creative impulse are going to pursue that regardless of their financial status until they... I mean, sometimes... I think maybe, some people they just love to work. But I also think that sometimes people have periods of their life where their creative... or their artistic ability and their talent is kind of at a peak, and they produce some of the best work of their life. And then maybe due to success or, accolades or attention or money and maybe experiences, all that stuff probably comes together in some way. And then we're like, oh, but remember the early shit. Remember how good it was. Remember the integrity and the talent and that now all the other albums suck or everything they did after that blew or whatever. People, and that happens a lot. So, I mean, some people have that drive and sort of like this thing that they always want to create. I think some people maybe are in a certain window of their lives in which they produce something really good and maybe can't necessarily follow up. And therefore they get this kind of maybe like washed up label or, one hit wonder type thing. Yeah. And some people get the one hit wonder type thing and even though they drop from that spotlight, they continue making stuff that never reaches that same level of attention or public view, but they have a core group of people that still supports them, and they still produce shit. You know, I mean, there's like certain types of artists that I think fit those molds. And you know, I think some people are like, I made a couple $1 million. I'm investing it correctly. I'm going to be on vacation for the rest of my life. I don't want to work anymore. I've done it. You know, I've reached already to where where I want to go.
So that's what I'm asking. Like, what point is where you...
I've got one. We're coming up on the hour right now. But I do believe, and this is something that come to me, it's not something I've sat on. Now that I'm thinking about it, I think this is probably something I'll think about further. But I think I brought up obligation. I think at the point where there is more obligation to you than from you. So like, if you've got more money coming in, say on royalties, than you got money going out on bills, you're set. I think that's your point. Now, if you're still scrambling, it's like, fuck, I got $1 million in the bank, but I got to pay $500,000 to, so-and-so.
You do not have $1 million in the bank. Then, yeah, exactly.
You
do technically, but if you're in debt that much, then
in this static moment, you have money in the bank, right. But future debts, I think, is where the peace of mind comes in. It's like, I can walk out into the woods right now, and if I come back, even if I don't do a thing, and I don't have to take a phone call from anybody, sign a letter, form, whatever, if I come back in 10 years, there's going to be more money in my bank account than when I left. That means you're doing it right.
You know, I haven't seen it in a while because of, everything's streaming now.
Right.
But when this was on television, when, there was cable and shit, when this was on, I always got kind of sucked in and would watch it every time. And it was the MC Hammer story on VH1, and it's just one of those perfect examples in which, the amount in which you spend, overcomes the amount that you actually take in.
I believe that's one of the quickest demonstrations of hubris that you can. The empire was built and it collapsed right the fuck back down.
And it's not that I get a joy. That's not why I watch it, but there's something about it that I think explains a lot about something about people, and
plus there's not the tragedy of it. Like he didn't die with a heroin needle in his arm in a motel or something.
His career just kind of like, could have just collapsed. And then at the end, he's like, I'm religious again. I'm being a preacher. And they freeze him in the moment where he's like going to go and it's like, hey, he was at the top, crashed down, picked himself up, found God again. Success story, it's like, some people might like the fact that that it's portrayed in such a way. I just think that it's an insight into people. And, it's like, I don't know how money would change me as a person. I really don't, because I ain't got no fucking money, but I mean, would money change people? Hell yeah, money's going to change you. It's either to do it for the better or for the worse, but it will change you.
I disagree. I think that, and it's a saying.
Can we hold that over to the next hour? Because we're right up on the line right here. All right. Yeah. Hold that thought, folks. We'll be right back.
Money will change you, Freddy.
1. And we're back for the second hour. Let's see. We were talking about money.
Cocaine's a hell of a drug.
We were talking about money.
Oh, okay.
No, I mean, that's...
All right. We were talking about money then. What were we saying?
I thought about this a lot.
I left on a fucking thought.
Well, what we were talking about was like the point of like how much is enough money? Where's the point of
Yeah, but I was gonna say I was about to
your own private army, maybe.
No, I was gonna say something.
Harem? Anybody else want a harem?
A good-looking harem.
Shit, dude. I guess it'll come back to me.
Hugh Hefner's dead, right?
Yeah.
Okay, just want to make sure.
All right.
I'll be honest, more and more as I get... It started off like a long while back, but like even more and more, like I do not think Larry Flint is a good human being. But I have way more respect for Larry Flint than I do for fucking Hugh Hefner. Like, there are just stories that come out about Hefner that you just go, Jesus,
did
you
y'all
old
know?
fuck.
Did y'all know that Charlie Chaplin was a child molester?
He married a 14-year-old girl,
Yeah,
I believe.
and then he had like a 13-year-old girl on the side. Yeah. And like he like,
How did you meet her? Well, they went to the same middle school.
yeah, and he like had sexual intercourse with these girls. I was gonna say ladies, but no, I gotta call them girls. You know, and I didn't know this up until like a year ago maybe, and then I just remembered because I came across an article recently, and I was like, oh yeah. This dude was a child.
I guess probably what you're talking about, people have probably known for a while. It's sort of like probably also like the Cosby thing, where it's like people knew, you know, or like the Weinstein.
I think Chaplin was pretty. I mean, I got the sense. I don't know if you've ever seen that biopic that Robert Downey Jr. did. If you haven't, go. I think it's called Chaplin. But while he did seem to be a fairly private guy, like, I don't think he was like sneaking around doing this shit. He was just like,
oh no, he was doing it.
Like people let him get away with it.
Yeah,
and people let artists get away with things that other people aren't allowed to basically get away with.
And even beyond that, man, like I brought up,
but well, where I was going with it was, and it's funny that you bring, like, we up here, Bobby, that you bring up the whole Cosby thing, because I was reading this book. I don't remember what it's called, but it had to do with psychology, the psychology of the mind, or the some shit. I don't remember what it was. And it started with, I found it across like an article or whatever. So I was reading that, basically, long story short, every sexual predator, every child molester, every fucking, human being of that nature, they all have common traits, of course, right? But what, like, they say, because they were discussing this in the book because they wanted to point out things that you should see in other people that will trigger you, as
the red
in,
flags.
This dude might,
Right.
even if they don't, or even if they've never done it, just so you know that person basically has the characteristics of, like, he might do it. You know what I'm saying? So one of the things is, and they reference Cosby, they reference Michael Jackson, they reference like big names in the book, right? But something that really like fucks with me with Cosby is that they say that Cosby had this tendency where he would pay people like money. He was once in a hotel in Hollywood, in California, and he told the door guy, because he had somebody at the door of his hotel, like always. He told that guy, and his job was just to be at the fucking door. That was his job. But he told the guy, he was like, "Hey man, can you pull the blankets from the bed? Can you pull them down halfway and fold them?" And the guy was like, "Well, can you not fucking like do it yourself?" And he's like, "No, bro, can you do it for me?" And he thought it was weird, right? But he did it, right? Mm-hmm. So then Cosby got in the bed. He was in his PJs or whatever the fuck he slept in. And he got in the bed, and then he told the guy, "Can you tuck me in?" He was like, can you,
I see what you mean.
Can you tuck me into bed? And the guy was like, "No, like, nah, bro." Like, he basically told him, "No, I don't feel comfortable doing this shit." And Cosby literally got out of bed like irate. Mm-hmm. And he was like, "You're gonna fucking do what I'm telling you to do because I'm paying you for this shit." And, that like a week later, a day later, whatever, he fired that guy, but anyway, so the same scenario later, when that happened, other people came out.
He'd ask them to do the same thing.
Yeah, and he would ask them to do the same shit.
Right.
Another thing that he would do is he was at a hotel in London. I don't know what the fuck this guy was with hotels, but he was at a hotel in London and showered like every other person. He left London. A week later, he was in America. He called the hotel in London and basically like begged them and threatened them to send them the soap that he had used, the one he had used to shower.
Right.
They wanted
not a fresh bar, but the one that actually he used
in that shower or whatever. And and that they did do because it was Bill Cosby. So they sent him the soap that he used or whatever.
That is some weird head game bullshit.
Yeah, okay. You see how that triggered that shit in Sean? Okay, so in the book, it says that people that do have this type of behavior, it's exactly to do that. What happened, what Sean just did.
They're testing boundaries.
The reason being is because supposedly it says in the book that, and I'm not talking shit about you, but it says in the book that people that react like that, they're easier to manipulate into a sexual behavior. So Sean Cosby probably could have fucked you. Anyway.
But
we gotta take that old man.
But whatever led him to be this kind of a deviant and the sexual predator that he was also it's part of a larger whole of this person that he acted in that way.
And if you'd like, I'll get back to this. Well, I'm gonna continue you saying what you gotta say, but real quick, Michael Jackson liked to smell people. Just like he would tell him to like stand literally here.
That's because he doesn't have a nose anymore. He had to be that close just to get them.
And he would just, and it's not like he was sniffing like a dog or anything. He would just like stand there and he just smell.
Well, it's I guess,
and people would say that, you know how you smell people, hey, you smell good, like what is it, you know? No, he would literally sometimes stand there for like 20 to 30 minutes at a time, like smelling, and he would tell him, he was like, you're gonna stand there until I'm done.
You know what? I wonder how much of that comes from like, cause I mean, they were living rough when he was a kid, man. So
yeah.
Like you got like 4 or 5 kids, stacked up in a fucking bedroom.
And so after all this money, back to the days of funk.
And I don't know, man, but a lot of people say that, it's because these are also common behaviors from people that got molested and shit like that, and so on and so forth.
Well, I think it all stacks up.
But then what I say is, motherfucker, I got molested when I was a kid. I don't.
Yeah. But if you were already a little bit cracked and then you got molested,
I was 8. I don't think I was cracked before.
That's what I'm saying, motherfucker. I'm saying like there's probably a little bit of temperament there. Cause look, man, you could look at the Jackson family now. You start at Joe and go all the way down to LaToya, man. There is clearly a temperamental like disposition there that is, I mean, when Tito's the normalest one of the bunch, no hate on Tito, man. Much respect. But I'm saying like when that's your baseline and you're starting from there and then like you add trauma on top of that. All right, you're living with fucked up people. You're fucked up, and the fucked up people start doing fucked up shit to you. Yeah. You're just more fucked up.
Well, I want to give it up to Freddy for basically admitting something that is, that is.
Oh yeah, like there's not. I mean,
it's a brave thing to admit, especially dudes don't like to.
I talk about it in my act too. So,
but what I want to talk about though also is that like. So there's no guarantees of how people are going to react given the same experiences or scenarios. So it's the same thing with people who grow up being abused or witnessing domestic abuse and perpetrating it themselves versus the people that are saying, you know what, I experienced this. I don't ever want anybody else to experience this ever again. There's no set way to determine where someone is going to align themselves following a certain experience. I was, there's basically a lot of the priests that, or like 100% of the priests that have like molested children apparently were molested themselves. Like there's a high percentage of that, right? So it's kind of like this, this thing that kind of, And people who have experienced these things also tend to be the perpetrators of these things, but also but it doesn't say that all people that experience these things end up the same way.
Well, you were talking about that idea that like the people, and I think it's probably a little more complicated than what you laid down, but like the idea of the initial revulsion reaction, like the disgust reaction being also an indication to the predator that there's also, it's like, I can work on this motherfucker. Like somebody that just goes, oh man, you fucking weird, and walks away. It's like, well, maybe you can do some of that, maybe you can't. But like the motherfucker that's like, oh motherfucker, I kind of understand what you're saying there. And I've come across at least enough with the priest pedophilia stuff. There seems to be an element of a lot of the guys that are going into the seminary and taking, the vows and priesthood and all that shit. A lot of them had the trauma as a kid, and they kind of dive deeper into the church to kind of go like, no, I must have gotten this wrong. There has to be like an explanation here. There has to be more.
It actually has to be maybe
I got
a good thing.
Maybe like I misunderstood. Maybe
I was going to say though that I had a thought that I really wanted to capitalize on, and it's not the ultra. No, but I was going to say that I was talking about. Okay, so now. What's fascinating about, talking about Michael Jackson or I Believe I Can Fly,
R.
Kelly.
Oh, they talk about R. Kelly.
Right. So the thing is, okay, so Cosby,
how can you not?
Jackson, R. Kelly. So look, these guys, so this behavior unfortunately occurs all over the place, and all, so these celebrities or these people that have a lot of money and a lot of influence and power, and they have people basically falling over themselves to give them what they want, because it's like, dude, it's like they want to
you're saying they're looking for the next high.
Well,
because that high doesn't do it anymore.
What I'm saying is that these guys like that are in the position in which they have a lot of fans, a lot of just people who want to be close to them, they are in a position to actually take these habits and this thing about them and really run with it. They have, and so it's fascinating because they're almost like providing like textbook examples of what, they have millions, bazillions of dollars, but they're doing the same shit that this fucking guy is doing to his fucking like niece or his, or whatever, it's so these like, it's there, but they are really good subjects to kind of analyze because they were given freedom to really explore these things without any consequence. So that was going
to be my next question, but you kind of answered it already with that last thing you said. I was just going to ask you very simple. Where do you think that the disconnect is?
So they were given this opportunity to really to let all those things hang out and really pursue all their abnormalities and stuff.
But remember how in the previous hour you said, I remember now what the fuck I was gonna say. In the previous hour you said, having money changes you or some shit. What did you say?
Yeah, money will change a person for good or bad, but it will change you.
Now I remember, like, it's like that other saying that they say, money doesn't change you.
It just amplifies your personality traits. It's like a superpower.
It just exposes who you really are.
Right. And I do believe that.
I believe that more than what they say that it changes.
No, it's funny though. I think I totally agree with that. But also on the flip side, it's like, I think what would be even more, the person who's most surprised about the changes that occur is that person themselves. They don't even know that's how they would have reacted. And,
I don't think anybody's sitting around going, you know what? I'm going to touch kids. I got $1 million in the bank. I'm going to touch some kids. Like that. I don't
Epstein, when are you going out to that fucking island again?
Come on, dude. He was clearly into that before the money ever came, man. When he was working, there's the stories when he was working at that prep school in New Jersey, maybe. Anyway, man, there were accounts of him fucking with the girls.
There's stories. It's funny how and before I fucking say this, we all know you should never touch a kid. You don't fuck kids. I get it.
And if we need to tell you that, you need to get some help.
Yeah, exactly. I get
Press
that.
pause.
Press pause now. Go out and find your nearest psychological.
Yeah, and then come back and listen when you get to
So,
Matter of fact, listen to this episode with your therapist. Point out exactly where you were triggered. And
exactly, man. But I get it. We're all at least in here. We're all grown and we understand you should never touch kids. It's not right, and I don't even like that. That's not my point. My point is there is actually a fucking, I don't know what to call a cult, a thing. It's a thing out in Colombia where you go into this place, like you would walk into a burger joint and you would be, they literally like, I don't even want to call it, but they hand you like a fucking menu and you literally like choose like, okay, I want this little girl.
Yeah, it's exploitation.
Or, yeah.
I'm
So
trying.
then-
There's a. I
So
want to
then
say it was.
they bring you basically what you ordered and you pay this money, right? And then you get to spend the night or whatever you paid for with this kid, and it's perfectly legal. Now, my point, no, in Colombia is what I'm saying. So
They're not ass backwards, man. Bogota is a pretty fucking advanced. I mean, I'd have to look at the laws, man. I'm just all right. Go ahead.
but what I'm saying is now, it's crazy how if you were to hear that story here, that same scenario's playing out, people would lose their fucking mind, right?
Oh, it's definitely playing out in some scope or form here.
But no. But that's what I'm saying. But when you mention it and you prove that it's happening here, people will lose their mind. Yeah. But yet you mention that same shit is happening in Colombia, and people here listen to that story happening out in Colombia, and it's like, well, it's Colombia. You know what I mean? So this is my point. It's funny how we claim to be sensitive to a subject, but only if it's like happening to you or...
Well, also people tend to react to certain victims different than other victims. A victim who is a minority of a lower class is easily overlooked versus somebody who you wouldn't evict. Oh, this, the opposite. So, but basically, I mean, exploitation happens everywhere, and it's a fucking monster's ball, man. It's like if you have the money and you have these fucking inclinations, you can go and fucking indulge them. You just got to hop on a plane and go somewhere where people are. That's why they pay their fucking food and their rent and they take care of their family.
Which that was the only point. Happens. That was the only point I was trying to make. Going back to what you were saying, of like, you were saying it. That you have so much money that you can basically you have the freedom to do all this shit. So you explore your whatever the fuck it is. So then you're like, oh, okay, well, you basically said, well, I'm tired of this and I'm tired of this. So I'm going to try to, touch some kids or whatever the fuck. And it's because you have that freedom and that liberty to where like you can't do it, but you can basically because you have money. So that was my whole.
What I was saying is, okay, so this person, whether they had money or didn't, would still be doing the same thing. It's just that the access and the scope on which somebody with money can actually indulge these things versus somebody who doesn't is the reason why they're good cases to study is because they were allowed to participate and indulge those sides of them for so long versus other people kind of have to be careful and under wraps and they're not under the it's just different, because these people are under the public eye, which is why they eventually get busted. They eventually get caught.
I think there is a comparison on the other end of, say, the financial spectrum, when you hear a lot of these stories about like family histories of abuse, where it's like everybody knows about, you know, Uncle Eddie, you know, he does what he does. We don't leave him alone with the kids, but we still let him come. It's like, why do you still let him come? Well, he's family. No, he should be a lump in the backyard and freshly tilled dirt.
Can't kill that gene though,
and
it's dormant.
And it's funny, man. It's funny because I completely agree with you. Yeah, he's family, but he's potentially gonna touch my kid. So fuck Uncle, whatever the fuck his name.
I'm not saying you got to be hateful about it. Do it like old Yeller. Go, come on, boy. We're just gonna go for a walk.
They just set their personal clocks. They're like, wait, where's? Okay, where are the kids? Okay, wait.
You know.
Oh, okay, he's right there. Okay,
you know.
No. Have you ever been around like a scenario that just kind of like you're getting that vibe? Like you just I've been in places dealing with like people, you know, family groups and shit like that. Fortunately, not my own family. I you know, there are a bunch of fucking weirdos in my family, but not of that fucking flavor. But I've been places where like something gets said and there's like, you know, let's say, you know, hey, Eddie hadn't been in the room for a while. Where the fuck? And you going like, why are y'all this? Why are y'all suddenly having this agitation? What's
right? Whereas and I think that some people really I don't like judging people off of, you know, I wouldn't say immediately. I like to give people the opportunity to let me see who they are as a person.
Yeah, you like to give them a chance until they put their hand on your crotch.
Well, but
then it's like, well, wait a minute, motherfucker. We just
pay me first. But no, but when say,
let me finish dinner.
Right, no, we're discussing prices first, okay? No, but this is the thing is that I said Groupon, motherfucker, not grab on, fucking Groupon shit. No, but the so. Last thought, Sean.
Just being in the scenario where like you can clearly tell there's something the people around you are not talking about. They're aware of some threat, of some agitation, but you can tell they're pushing that down hard. But they're aware enough of it that like when that kind of boundary case comes up, they immediately, like, they almost viscerally, they go, oh shit, we got to do something about this. Yeah. And you're going like, why the fuck didn't you do something about it before?
Well, because there's some, to answer the, and I'm not saying this is right. I'm not agreeing to it either. And I'm not saying it's right. I'm not agreeing to it either, but I'm answering your question. Mm-hmm. There is also scenarios where, like the one that just happened 2 months ago here in Edinburgh, that quadruple suicide that happened in Edinburgh, whatever. So I don't know if y'all read the story after they released it, like the full story on the monitor.
Ex-boyfriend.
Yeah. Long story short, it was mom's boyfriend. It was mom's boyfriend. He was dating mom or whatever. And mom was pregnant with mom's boyfriend. Mom didn't have papers. Boyfriend got interested, and boyfriend was 50 some years old. Mom was 45 or whatever. Boyfriend got interested in stepdaughter or whatever. Mm-hmm. So he wanted to sleep with the daughter. Daughter didn't want to. So daughter told mom. Boyfriend threatened mom to call immigration if she didn't let him sleep with the daughter. So mom persuaded the daughter to sleep with him. Mm-hmm. Got her pregnant. She had the baby. No, I'm lying. She already had a 2-year-old baby, and it was his, right? And they were living together. I think she was pregnant again, and that one was his too. So then everybody was killed, and they believed that it was by the boyfriend or whatever.
Right.
And the only one that they left alive was the 2-year-old baby anyway. So my point is that a lot of the times that happens. What I mean is it's either done for persuasion of something, or it's either done to, like what you said earlier, to protect somebody. to protect somebody that you shouldn't even be protecting.
Right.
Well, I think that's a tragic situation, and
It was really fucked up.
And
like when I read it, man, I was like, "What?"
But I'm also wondering, what is it about? Where were this? What could have been identified in this guy's behavior and his past and his history that might have led up to that moment? But aside from that, what I thought we were talking about is that basically there's some people that alert your spider sense, naturally, and you just feel
like something is off. Yeah.
And when I get that, that thing, I could say I'm going to put it in the back of my head, but I don't want to like jump to conclusions about a person, right? But I also kind of I'm a big, I don't know, believer in the idea that there's a balance, as good and amazing and selfless and helpful as some people can be. You also have some people on the exact spectrum so it goes almost like with all behaviors. So unfortunately, there are going to be some people that are produced in society that are going to have these natural predatorial things about them. I'm not saying we should forgive them or give nothing like that. No, but to understand humanity as a whole, we also have to acknowledge that there are these severe, extreme aberrations of behavior. And what is it that either is it a genetic component? Is it an experiential? Is it like experience?
I think it's a sickness.
But if you're going to say it's a sickness, and sicknesses can be cured,
not all sicknesses,
or alleviated.
Not really. Well, there's
There's a difference between being a diabetic, sticking to your diet, taking your insulin, doing all the good stuff, and then being a diabetic that fucking keeps having goddamn crashes because they're drinking soda and, eating candy and like fucking all this shit. Like you can be a little twisted and be a reasonably normal human being.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. I don't think that applies to people that...
I think what we understand, and I think what we identify like as people, is that there are things that help us. There are things that protect us. There are things that help propel us forward to some higher state of humanity that's going to make us better than where we are right now. And and those things that, those positive attributes, we want to focus on them and see how it makes people go forward. But there's certain things that we also were on guard against, and that's why we protect people who can't protect themselves. That's why we guard, our children, and people who are, vulnerable and it just seems like,
I think there can be a perversion of that instinct a little bit. Like, I think this is really what might come into play when, as far as like families kind of protecting predators within their midst, is like, if maybe that person is just a shit human being that maybe 80% of the time, 90, 99, whatever, you can't stand them. Like if you were to just meet them randomly, you'd be like, ugh, and you just walk away from them. But their family has to be there for so often that those small glimpses of humanity,
right?
Those brief moments where maybe they're a sweet and kind individual.
Uh-huh. And they're also, maybe sometimes they take ownership for the fact that they might be responsible for how this person has turned out. And therefore there's a maybe element of guilt and protection. And so they kind of just, try to deal with the situation in a way that they have a sense of maybe loyalty or compassion that everybody else is just like, fuck that person. They are a monster, or their family is sort of like, but they're our monster.
Well, how many times do you hear these stories? There was one just tail end of last year where this guy was a high level spokesman for an organization they were about child abuse. Like they, go to countries and do this shit. And dude was like outright, like almost openly, if it weren't for the fact that he was doing it anonymously online, like he was out there just fucking downloading kiddie porn and fucking trying to, make negotiations. Like, I think that's how they ended
And
up.
almost like defending his right to do it, right? Kind of. Well, some guys do that,
Oh, yeah, that kind of like, it's almost like they're cloaking themselves in this idea. It's like, well, I do all this righteous shit. Like, why shouldn't I dip my toes in the, the dirty end a little every once in a while? You go, all right, man, that's, I don't, but I think there are people who kind of, if you're around somebody like that often enough and you feel some sort of obligation, maybe you kind of latch on and you go, well, no, deep down they're a good person. It's like, no. On the surface level and right down to the core, they're a shit human being that has a fine coating of maybe decency on top. Like maybe it rubbed off a little bit.
They
somewhere.
have a minor sense of right and wrong and how to behave, but if you caught them alone in their element in which they really want to act, they want to do, it's like, oh shit. I personally feel that we're still kind of evolving in a way. And I'm wondering, like, okay, so are we hoping that there's going to be a point in time in the future in which we're not going to have this type of, person who's like, I just can't help myself. This is where I was born, and like,
I think we'd be foolish to hope that was an inevitability. I think part of what is so fascinating, and if we're going to be, big about it, glorious about the potential of the human species, is that there's so much variation. There is so many variables. There's so much that goes into building a functioning human being on just the psychological level.
Right. So if these things are inevitable, even in thinking about like serial killers, another example of such an extreme behavior that is like a detriment to society and actually hurts and preys on people, just at the same level that a child molester or a pedophile or, all this is like, or a serial killer or a serial rapist or whatever, that, like what is it that is broken in here? Because we know that society as a whole, the majority of people, I believe in the decency and the goodness of people. But, that's here. But out here, there's some, and we have to acknowledge that, is it inevitable that's always going to exist? Or are we going to discover a way in which we can improve ourselves as a whole to where that doesn't happen on the level, but also what are the factors that contribute to it? I mean, it's such a, but that's why I feel like we're still growing. We're still moving towards something. I feel that for all our missteps, that we're still trying to reach a place that's elevating us to where we move forward as people and humanity versus the stuff that's going to hold us back. Because eventually we're going to need to, this is like really fucking like forward and projecting, but eventually we're going to have to be able to work together like enough to where we're going to be able to fucking leave planet Earth and spread fucking humanity all across the cosmos, because we know we got an expiration date. That's what all this evolution of technology and shit, it fucking is. It's trying to get us to that next state to where we can fucking like, explore. And it's like, it's almost like our natural like instinct to know, like, dude, one day we're going to have to get off of here. And how is it going to fucking happen? So we're developing those means. We're in the dark ages right now. People drive fucking cars is a ridiculous thought to me. You're putting people in control of these things of plastics, fiberglass, steel, rubber, and you're giving them to fucking people that are driving recklessly. It's like thousands of years down the road, they're going to look at us as a society and they're going to be like, are you serious? Those fuckers, like, they would control like these machines and they would just smash into each other? Or sometimes they would just smash into something by themselves. Or sometimes they would use it and just hit somebody who was outside walking. Like that was obviously a very shitty system that didn't fucking work out for a lot. Because if you look at one of the biggest causes of death, it's fucking vehicle deaths. So it's like, that's some fucking backwards dark ages shit. So don't take away my fucking car, my fucking muscle car and all this shit. It's like, yeah. But there's going to be a period down the road where we have transportation so evolved that we're going to fucking think it's ridiculous that, like for example, I'm teaching The Crucible, which talks about the Salem witch trials. The idea that witches actually existed. That I'm going to go meet with the devil in the forest. And he's going to have a book. And I'm going to sign it with my blood. And I'm going to Satan, you can have my soul. And I'm going to promise to tear down God and everything, but you're going to give me all these earthly pleasures and delights and stuff. And I'm going to be your minion and I'm going to be able to be invisible and go attack people. And I'm going to have a fucking broomstick. I'm going to be able to fly and shit. People believe that fucking shit was real. Yeah. Fucking backwards, dark ages bullshit that we see today and we fucking laugh at. And so what I'm saying is like, we're like, how could people even have done that? How could they even think that? You know, it's like, well, yeah, because we're looking at the lens of the world that we live in today. Sophistication, technology, all that shit. And we're not even done. We're barely fucking figuring this shit out. And so we're this period of time. So there's going to be a period further down the road which people are going to look back at the shit that we did and say, motherfuckers are backwards. You know, and so back to what we're talking about in terms of these severe examples of the worst of humanity and people who are hurt and stuff like that. Hopefully we're also moving forward to a point because those things are going to set us back. Those things do not contribute to the elevation of humanity and to who we potentially can be. And which is why we react so severely to them. Yes, because we love our children. Yes, because we don't want people to be hurt. We don't want people to be victimized. But a bigger version of that is that if people really acted like that and we allowed them to do that all the time, we would never be able to reach that further point of our evolution where we're supposed to be at. So hopefully we're going to reach a point to where we understand these things and hopefully we can prevent them because not only because it's hurting people, because it will also help benefit us as a whole. And that's just me and my fucking super broad fucking outlook of seeing it. So we are identifying these things like maybe a serial killer, a predator, a child molester, and all these things that we realize are holding us back from the potential of who we can be. I don't know. And I just think that the more that we identify these things, like, so maybe are we going to be at a point in the future where like, hey, your kid has the Jeffrey Dahmer gene or the Ted Bundy gene or the fucking Michael Jackson gene. Your kid's going to be able to moonwalk. Pretty fucking badass. But, he's going to want to moonwalk into some little kid's bedroom. All right. So, you have an option. We can maybe send a little fucking nanobot into your fucking thing. He's going to fucking blow out that gene, and maybe you're going to have a fucking normal kid or whatever. Okay. I mean, I don't know.
What if the problems are not, what if I don't believe that. Like, what if, I don't think it's a gene, bro. Like, I don't think you're born a pedophile.
We don't know yet, man. Like we have at least some evidence to show that there is at least a neurological component and a genetic, or if not a genetic component, at least a neurological structural component to sexual attraction, right? But we don't know how that plays when it comes to.
And it also goes back to what we were talking about. Like, okay, somebody who experiences domestic abuse, they can choose to beat their wife or husband or whatever, or their kids because they experienced it. Or it's two people at the same age, same experience, everything, witnessing the same thing. One person goes this route, one person goes this route. Why? You know, so just because you experience something doesn't mean that you're doomed to repeat it. But yet some people who have experienced those things repeat them. If they hadn't experienced it, would they have repeated it or not? And I'm not saying I'm not saying I'm definite, but I'm also saying yes, there is a lot of factors. It's very, very, very fucking complicated.
I'm not saying this is a one-to-one thing, but there does seem to be some evidence for functional, say, sociopathy or narcissism, and a lot of this is.
Emphasis on the functional.
Okay, well, that's what I'm saying though. Is if they are kind of if they're not forced into that place where it's like, okay, your drive is, say, narcissism specifically. I was watching something the other day. There's a great guy on YouTube, Dr. Grande. If you give her a chance, he's got some interesting stuff.
Any relation to Ariana?
No, but a mental breakdown on that weirdo. Anyway, my point being is he was talking about narcissism, and he was like, there are case studies where you go, okay, in this, the one specifically he was talking about was this guy blew up on a coworker of his, because he was in a scenario where one of their superiors, he was basically trying to force his will upon lower, subordinates. That's the word I'm looking for. So their superior just kind of came in and went, you're all causing problems. Fucking stop it. You know what I mean? Like you talk to children, right?
Right.
And that was a moment where he could have gone like, oh, well, you know, fuck it. At least like, you know, he's bringing them into it. So I'm not focused out. So, okay, I can move on with it. But like the narcissism just went like, oh, you're blaming this on me? No, fuck that. And it resulted in him actually assaulting, the other coworker at one point. But those moments of going like, look, well, I mean, even us in this room, I'm assuming we've all had like little behavioral traits, something or other. There's something you're doing in your life.
Wait, hold up, man. I ain't never touched a fucking kid.
But you used to be a fat kid, didn't you?
No, I actually was never a fat. Well, no, yeah, I was. I think I was.
That's what I'm saying, man. Like there's little things, man. There's actions, there's behavioral traits that we kind of pick up along the way because at some point they served us as a survival mechanism, right? Like if you're a narcissist, you're looking out for yourself. If you're a sociopath, you can kind of dismiss the, you know, shit that's going on around you and focus on you. But at a certain point, that's going to be a detriment. When you start going, if you can't recognize the edge case, the boundary of where does this stop serving me as a survival mechanism and starts becoming a threat or at least a hindrance to activity around me. If you can't recognize that, then you're a problem. But I think there are a lot of people that talk about the functional, they get to those points and they recognize it. So they start making changes in what they're doing. If you're a diabetic,
impulse control, self-control, self-improvement, trying to, you know, and I do believe people might be able to reverse negative things about them.
I don't know if you can reverse. I think you can do something to alleviate.
I would say that I like the idea of self-improvement because I would like to believe that I can improve myself, you know, and so, you know, I would also want to extend that to somebody else who wants to work on themselves. But
I think there's always going to be, there are those drives that come in like, all right, drug use. You know what I mean? If you focus on a substance, this is the thing that has, you know, brought joy, fucking, you know, stress relief, whatever. If you can't differentiate between like, okay, there's the alleviation of stress and the bringing of joy, and then there's the drug. If you can't separate those two things, then they become the same thing, and that you build drives up around that.
Right, and that feeds addiction.
Yeah, you basically build your life. One example I've used with a couple of friends was my intake of pot was very ritualistic for a long time. So I've been smoking weed a long fucking time. And there is very much a ritual to sitting down, cleaning the seeds, rolling the joint, smoking it, having the ashtray, yada, yada, the roach clips, all the way down the line. And at the point where I was able to kind of separate that, it became, I still smoked weed.
But you were able to kind of like
it became much
separate yourself from it.
It became much more useful. I became much more useful.
Right. So, yeah, and I believe in our rituals there is comfort. And I also feel that, for example, like, okay, if people, whatever the object of your addiction is, I feel that it's still very much the same. It's addiction. You know, for people like, well, I don't break the law. I don't do drugs. I don't buy, but they're morbidly obese and they eat fast food 3 times a day and they're fucking, you know, and I'm like, yo, no, you're a fucking addict. You are a straight fucking addict. You know, you're addicted to sugar. You're addicted to all the fat. You're addicted to that. Because what happens when you eat that shit, endorphins, it's fucking delicious. You're like, oh, I'm in heaven. And someone's like, I can't wait to fucking go to fucking Burger King and get that fucking shit, whatever. You know, it's like, I can't wait to go to my fucking cold dealer and I can't wait to go to my pot dealer. I can't go wait to fucking gamble. I can't wait to go to the fucking porn store. I can't wait to fucking do this. It's all the same fucking shit.
Dude, I heard somebody talking about the smell of cheeseburgers, like just the joy they received from like driving from like the fast food joint back to their place.
Knowing what's waiting.
Smelling it, the whole sensation,
I can't look at a white box that looks like a dozen donuts or a cake or conchas or fucking whatever, like sweetbread. I can't like if there's it could be empty. But if you show me one of those boxes, my mind, like I start salivating. My mind, I'm just thinking like, dude, there's something really fucking sweet in there. That's like, I was like, because I've experienced that. So just, you see that fucking box, you're just like,
Bro, you don't understand. You know how this whole Valentine's bullshit is like upon us and shit. I walked into the store and I saw a 3-pound bag of Snickers, bro. I was like, oh my god.
Yeah,
3
man.
pounds of heaven, yo. Yeah. Oh,
I know. And if you catch yourself at the right time, you buy that bag, you take it home, you sit in front of the TV, and you fucking, next thing you know, you're like, you went through, your hand is diving into a pile of wrappers looking for the hard one that's left. You're just like, looking for it. It's like, oh, it's the one here.
The thing that comes to mind is fucking chocolate Easter bunnies, like the big fuckers, like
with their hollow.
Oh no, I want the solid, the flat ones where they got the flat back, okay. But it's just a solid piece of chocolate, and I can see it and kind of go through the like, I know how that would taste, the whole thing. You got it on your fingers, all this shit. But I can also play that scenario all the way forward to where you're down to the very end of it.
And you just hate yourself. It's disgusting. You're fucking nasty.
You can like taste the corn syrup on the back of your tongue, and just like every time you just like, this has gone beyond enjoyment to disgust. And I think that is also part of that getting past.
Right. Because you learn from it and hopefully you don't repeat it. You're like, I went there. It was gross.
But at the same, like being able to hold at the same time, go like, dude, I would murder a bunny.
But that's how you know when there's people that have a problem, and then there's people that have a problem. Yeah. I was somebody that had a problem, and this is all I'm gonna say. I hear so many fucking people today that supposedly drink all the time, and they argue with me because they say, no, I drink all the time. But yet you hear the stories of like when they get drunk and they wake up the next day and you put like a beer in front of them, or you put a glass of whiskey, and it's like, oh my God, I don't want to see that.
But a real alcoholic would have drank it. You're like, they would have.
And me, I'll be honest with you, bro.
You just said thank you and drank it quick.
The next day, I never saw it like, oh my God. I was like, holy shit. Well, you know what I'm saying? Right. I never felt the feeling of like, not holy shit, I'm not gonna touch it again. That's why I tell him, I was like, dude, you're bullshitting. You just drink because you drink.
But also, like, maybe there's one big addiction that maybe somebody has, and maybe some people have many.
One what?
Maybe there's one big addiction or one vice that somebody has that kind of like checks all their boxes, and maybe some people have like little ones that add up to the same.
I was going to bring that up when we were talking about like the predatory behavior and the weird deviant sexual shit. I think there is something to the idea of like, we've had this conversation, Bobby, about the restrained hedonism.
Yeah.
I think hedonism in short and controlled bursts, which that
doesn't negatively impact other people.
Yeah, you could argue that's not really hedonism. It's like, nah, man, if you're
being considerate.
But if you go, okay, I have prepared my place, I have prepared my things, everything is here, I'm not going to leave. Nobody
Tarps on the floor.
Yes. Mm-hmm. I'm wearing my raincoat and the axe is in the closet. Have you listened to Huey Lewis and the news?
I was going to talk about some sex shit, but yeah, we can go there too.
You said some sad shit or
sex.
Oh, I heard it right. I was like, did you?
I say tarp on the floor. I think orgy. Sean thinks fucking killing somebody.
I'm saying be prepared for all scenarios.
Oh, the raincoat. You're talking about the condom. Okay.
What did I mean that? I meant both. You don't know. That's what I'm saying though, man. If you are at least you go, I'm going to be here. Maybe I'm going to have some friends over. We got some liquor. We got some pills. We got some blah, blah, blah.
I never thought I'd say this, but I wanted to say this before the episode was over. Never thought I'd say this, but back to the child molestation shit. When y'all were talking about that shit, man, you just because you said some people just have an instinct and they that's what they want to do. You reminded me of that bit from Theo Von that he said he had an uncle that would like to walk around and jerk kids off. So what they did, they put jingles on his wrist.
They knew he was coming around.
So that they knew when he was getting out of bed and shit.
Well, that's kind of like what I was talking about earlier when you're in one of those scenarios and you think everything's cool and then like somebody goes, wait, where's what's their face?
Yeah.
Shit, we got to get
By the way, when it comes to predators and child molestation, I got to give it to him hands down. Theo Von has one of the greatest fucking jokes because it's hard, but it's fucking hilarious. I don't give a shit. You don't have to agree with him, but it's hilarious when he talks about and it's not even a story. I don't know if y'all heard it, but he just says, "Hey man, so sexual predators are out there again." He was like, "They're out there again." Yeah, man. And no offense if you're in the game, in the Predator game, but I don't know why people, are so uptight about it. People got molested when I was growing up. You remember when people got molested? I mean, that's just the way it goes. It's like you were molested and then you got a ride somewhere. That was your end of the deal. You know what I'm saying?
Just picturing that George Carlin scene from Jay and Silent Bob, Rules of the Road.
Yeah.
Where I was getting at with the hedonism, the debauchery is I think there is the possibility of the slippery slope of behavior where you kind of just allow yourself to get in that place of like, fuck it, we're here, let's try it.
Yeah, some people are willing to explore their boundaries, and some people are just. And
you can also get in with crowds of people that'll push you
to do it. Yeah, and you might. Yeah, exactly. And there we go.
I'm glad. I've never in my life met somebody that. Hey man, you ever tried touching one of these kids?
Dude, it doesn't have to get that extreme. I'm not kidding. I climbed out of a second story window and smoked smoked cigarettes on a roof for 2 hours to avoid a group scene that just got like, at first, like they were like, dude, we're gonna do it. I was like, fuck it, man. I walked in, like shit got weird, and I was just like, I'm gonna climb out this window. Y'all are kind of in the way of the door right now.
Yeah, the open invite, but it's just not for me. It's exactly so.
And I think there's some people who don't know. Well, that's always a weird thing when you run into those people. It's like, well, I didn't want to like,
but I
fucked up open mic, Sean.
But I think a lot
do the jokes. You'll love it.
I think a lot of it has to do with the fact, and I don't mean to get preachy on here, but I think it has a lot to do with like where your standards are, like as a human being, because like you said earlier, we all know that there's things that right from wrong, and that you don't have to be the most perfect human being to know that you just don't fucking do that. You know what I mean? Like, and the reason that I say that, I mean, I thank God I've never come close or being in an environment where I thought, a kid was going to be touched or somebody was doing. I've never been there.
Never had an AMBLA call you to recruit you.
Yeah, say, fuck no. So, but
Freddy, just read the pamphlet.
What I
you have a minute.
What I did every time. What I
Can we
did
talk to you about our favorite pastime?
What I did have an encounter with that, and to this day, bro, I never forgot, and I still remember vivid. I was like 16 or 17 years old, and we were at a party. We were at a hotel party, and I just remember these guys taking turns with the same chick.
Yeah,
and I saw it, yeah. like I was seeing it going on in the and then they told me they literally,
hey Freddy, get over here, Yeah,
they looked at me and he was like, hey man, it's your turn. Like people I didn't even know, they didn't even know my name, and they were like, hey man, it's your turn. And I was like, bro, and I saw the girl there, and I was like, bro, nah, I'm good, man. And I was kind of like you, like everybody was blocking the door, they were blocking this door over here, and I was like, nah, man, I'm gonna go over here. And I was like, dude, like, and then he didn't make it any better. He was like, bro, like, we're all done. You're the last one left. And I was like, bro, I'm
dude, I had another scenario one time where a buddy, like, it was going to basically it was going to be a devil's threesome, and she was in, my buddy was already in, they were fucking blown to the nines, fucking I was pretty fucking lit myself, and like she walked her little fucking, you know, half-dressed ass back to the room, and my buddy was like, yeah, and he ran back there, and I just went, okay, and walked to my fucking room and passed the fuck out, and I get this conversation in the morning of like, dude, what happened, man? We
were waiting for you.
No, but here was the thing, like there was a
we were waiting for you.
Nah, they didn't wait. I could hear the noise before I even closed the bedroom door. But there was this kind of like for a moment I was like I felt like I needed to explain myself, and I was just like, I just wanted to go to bed. He was like, all right, cool, and that was it. And I was like, oh, okay. That was one of those like, oh, peer pressure is all in my head. You know me wrong, unless they're holding you down and going like, you will.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, just know what you're getting into ahead of time, you know.
There are weak-willed people out there too.
Well, then then never get into a game of never have I ever. Never have I never.
Oh, dude, when you're in the middle of one of those scenes, like just not even the debauchery, but just one of those things where you can tell stuff's going out into the deep end, and you can see somebody getting nervous, and you're like, you should go home. Just go home.
Yo, you don't want to be around here in a couple of minutes, but right? Just
Dewey, you don't want none of this. Take all your good,
trying to save you.
Take all your bad feelings and turn them into good feelings. All right, we are about to hit the first hour. I mean, this is the second hour right here. Bobby, I know you don't do the social media too often, but you got anything coming up? You got anything you want to share?
No, and no. Oh, well, I mean, yeah, no ambition, just fucking living. So, yeah. Bobby Garza, fuck you.
Bobby Garza out. Freddy?
You can find me across the board at Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Freddy G.
You can find me riding on a board.
Keep that joke to myself. You got the show coming up on the 27th?
Oh, shit. When does this come out?
This coming out tomorrow, motherfucker.
Oh, shit. Yeah. I have a couple of shows coming out.
Meeting your probation officer doesn't count. Right.
So be nice and come out.
Dance for me, boy.
And laugh with me. I mean, even if it's not funny, just laugh for the support.
With me or at me.
Yeah, either one will work. Yeah, I have a couple shows coming out. I have a show on the 27th. That show is where, Sean?
Tropicana, isn't it?
Yeah, that right there. Yeah, the Tropicana in Edinburgh. I'm a horrible promoter, yo. And I have a show on the 29th in San Antonio. Just follow me on social media, Freddy G. Cause as soon as I get the details on the location and the time, I will flesh those out. But I do know that it's in San Antonio. Somewhere in San Antonio. So come out. Appreciate the support.
If you want to get in touch with me, it's hatfieldstandup@gmail.com, as well as Hatfield Standup on Facebook and Twitter. We got the show coming up next Friday on the 21st of February.
See, I forgot about that shit too. But again, you just told me again right now.
21st of February, Harlingen, Texas, The Spot. It's on Jackson Street, I believe. That should be cool. We're going to be there with the Not Suitable for Listeners podcast, Roy Alex Gomez, Joseph Soto, and Umberto
Feel free
Moreno.
to show up naked.
We'll put you on
They
the fucking
remove
show.
the poll.
And we'll have a bunch of guests on the podcast. Rudy Barba, Sonia Trevino, Jesse Lopez, and I believe Timothy Looper. I'm not entirely sure. That'll be a good show. If you're a follower of the podcast, go share. There's a post up on Facebook right now that if you go share that and you're a follower, we'll get you some free tickets. Participate, motherfuckers. We like you. Why don't you play with us? Not in that way.
I was like, those are the expressions of Sean and Sean.
Don't take me at face value. I look much better from the back. My point being is we've got that show coming up on the 21st. I was thinking I had something else, but I don't think I do. Maybe every Saturday night on my free cams, but that's something else. My point being is, if you would like to get in touch with us here at the podcast, bouncingbrainspodcast@gmail.com, as well as Bouncing Brains Podcast on Facebook, Bouncing Brains on Twitter and Instagram. Thank you for listening, folks. Bobby, thank you for coming.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. No such thing as a free cam.
Tan Staffel.
And until next time, keep it tight.